Hi. My name's Emily Nguyen. I'm a customer success manager here at Zoom. A little bit about what I do is I help in post-sales, so training end users and training administrators. So that's a little bit about me and my position, what I do.
And I'm Kevin Nguyen, so we are definitely related. She's actually my lovely wife. We work both at Zoom. Yes, see, that's what I wanted. That's what we're doing. So I'm a sales engineer at Zoom. I do pretty much her job, but on the pre-sale side. So I'm here afterwards to take technical questions while we do this presentation. At the end of it, we're going to also have a Q&A. So feel free to go ahead and shoot us some questions, but yeah.
Sounds good. So before I move on here, the whole thing is Zoom like a Zoomie. So learning how we actually Zoom here at Zoom. I don't know if that's too many Zooms in a sentence, but I'm going to go with it. So I'd like to start off with our bread and butter, which are the Zoom meetings. So just getting to know a little bit more about that.
And sorry, one thing to also note, you're going to see two screens here. One's going to be her presentation. I'm going to do a live demo on the left-hand side, which is a cardinal rule against anything technology, because we're going to try to do it live here. But you're going to see what she actually is describing on our left-hand side. So that's what you're going to see on these two screens.
I meant to say that, but oops. Virtual background. So I think most of you probably know about virtual background, but in May, we actually released a new version where as a Windows user, you can actually use virtual background without a green screen, which is pretty amazing. Quick note here, you may want to notate the processing power. i7 quad core is really, it does require a lot of processing power. I do have some tips and tricks. Being from Texas, I like big hair. So if you're looking to not have harsh lines or your hair get cut down, use a blurred background. And it does kind of, again, cut less hair off at the end of the day. So if you're doing something that's a little bit more harsh in backgrounds, we do recommend the green screen. So the picture below there is of my coworker, Ashley. And she has, of course, you see that Zoom with a little bit more information behind it. And that's something that I would recommend using the green screen for.
So you heard the announcements that we had when Eric was doing his keynote. One of the big things that we're able to do now, we're able to do things like preview mode for your virtual background. So before you actually get into the meeting, you can actually make sure that your virtual background is going to be appropriate for the meeting, make sure it's not anything too crazy. So you'll have that preview mode, very similar to how right before a meeting you actually have a preview of like what you look like on video. The other one that is very dear to my heart is actually video virtual backgrounds. So your favorite aquarium that you might have, your favorite waterfall, things like that, you can actually set that behind you and actually can play full motion while you're actually doing a Zoom video call. It does take a little bit more bandwidth and a little bit more power from your machine, but that's something that we want to make sure that we're allowing our users to have in a couple more releases there. The PowerPoint virtual background, in case you actually want to switch out your background on the fly, behind you, you'll be able to have like a presentation. As you go through your presentation, you'll actually be able to click through. You don't actually have to share content in that case, but you'll be able to swap your background so everybody will see you, your pretty face on top of your presentation too. Last but not least, you have your virtual background in Zoom rooms. So what you can actually do with your Zoom rooms now, you can paint one wall green and actually be anywhere while you actually have your Zoom room meeting. So one thing that we wanted to make sure is trying to merge the parity between Zoom meetings and Zoom rooms. So we brought virtual backgrounds into the Zoom room itself. Oh, we have a question.
Did you say you can only do the previous one with Windows and not a Mac?
You can do it with Mac already. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
And then one just little, especially if you're an end user, this is a great thing that you can bring into adoption. People get really excited when you start using different virtual backgrounds. So whether you're administering Zoom or actually using Zoom, these are usually the things that get people really excited. Now, I'm going to be going through a GIF here. This is our backup to Kevin's live demo. But cloud recording options, if you miss this, it will play over again. Everyone does know that we do have both local and cloud recording. But with cloud recording, you're able to have an audio transcript associated with it. And something that's pretty neat, little less known, is the fact that it's a searchable transcript. So in this example here, they're searching for the word registration, and technically you could click through and find that in the recording, which is pretty neat. And then if you're wondering what that last circle that happens at the very end of it, you can also add chapters. So later on, if you're sharing this recording, being a person that's a trainer, I may want to have chapters throughout my recording, so you can add that in.
So here on the left-hand side, you're going to see this is a record that I did maybe about a week ago. Throughout the presentation, I said the word verify. So let's say I can go ahead and find the word verify. It actually highlights inside the video here. There's 5 instances that actually said the word verify. I'm able to go there and actually go directly to where I said, let's say, the 5th instance. It brings me directly there, and I can play from there wherever I said that word. You can actually go through the audio transcript as well. You can scrub it to, again, make it accurate to what you actually said. So sometimes when I have horrible pronunciation, so the audio transcript doesn't absolutely correctly capture what I said, but I can go back and actually edit this here. So let's say instead of saying the word verify, I could have said the word banana for whatever reason. So I can go in here and actually edit this and say banana instead. And I can click save. So now whenever I search banana in this audio transcript, I'll actually find it in that instance. So this is, again, it's a great way to actually not have to take notes, right? So the ability for you to do cloud recording and actually just reference the transcript that's automatically created. This is done with a partnership with a company called Otter.ai. They're actually upstairs right next to the Zoom booth, so I highly advise you guys to go out there and talk about some of the feature sets that's coming out as a roadmap.
Perfect. All right. So in meeting controls, yeah.
Before you move on,
Yeah, no worries.
the edit feature, can you turn it off?
So you can't disallow somebody from doing it. You can disallow somebody from accessing cloud recording altogether. And let's say only an admin wants to actually do it. You can say only this specific group of people within your Zoom infrastructure can actually access cloud recordings. But that specific edit feature, we don't have the granularity to actually shut it on and off yet.
No worries. In meeting controls, so once we're inside of that meeting itself, oh, sorry, back there? No, you're good.
Question. Can you save that transcript as a Word document?
It saves as a VTT file.
Yeah, so when you download the cloud recording, you won't be able to actually have access to this transcription. So when you download the file, you'll actually only get the MP4 file, which is the video portion, the content, the audio. The transcript, as you said, will download as a VTT. You can kind of extract the text from that file and put it into a Word document, but it's not going to show up kind of how it's showing up here. Yeah, you can absolutely cut and paste. You can text it in, you can paste it into like a Word doc if you want to, yeah.
All right, so those in-meeting controls, once you're inside of that Zoom meeting, I think Kevin is spinning up a Zoom meeting right now, but I'm sure everyone in the room at one point, you've gotten into a Zoom meeting and someone's saying, I can't hear you, or vice versa. Quick tip and trick here, right next to the mic, you'll see a little up arrow. The 4th option up is the option to test your microphone and speaker. So this will run you through a little wizard, and it'll have you hear the ringtone similar to when someone is trying to meet with you via Zoom. It'll play that. If you can hear it, that'll be the microphone that's set or the speaker that's set. And same thing for the microphone. Sorry, I skipped over that a little fast. It'll also play something back from your voice. So you can really identify, is the problem me or you at the end of the day.
And this is kind of to show what you can do with voice over IP, right? So here at Zoom, we usually recommend you use voice over IP rather than calling in or having it call you back. One of the benefits of using voice over IP is having access to tools like this. Allows you to do things like test your mic, test your speakers. If you just call in over your phone, there's really no way for us to actually help you test that. So again, here at Zoom, we like when our users use voice over IP. It's free, it's very reliable here at Zoom, and it gives you access to a lot of these things too.
It's also I think sometimes it's a roadblock For some people, using voice over IP can be kind of scary, especially if you were really cradled to your phone. This is a great way to make sure you're using that voice over IP and it's working correctly, so you can get your users to use it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so inside your Zoom portal, actually, and this is. Yeah, so he asked whether or not you can set certain groups as a default to use voice over IP and others to use phone. Is that right, Ravi? Yeah. So he isn't a plant. I know him, so don't worry. So you can go into your profile, actually. Under meetings, you can select certain users to use voice over IP. So I can go and let's say I'm going to schedule a new meeting here. Here's the options that you can go through and show. Audio. So right here under audio, it allows you to have telephone, computer audio, telephone and computer audio, or third-party audio. You can restrict access to some users to just have telephones, some users to just have computer audio, and others to have both. So you can set that in there. Yeah.
Perfect. And then there's a lot that's going on my screen right now, but I'm hoping that I can get through all of this. So the first thing is the larger picture of just my face. Whenever I am doing a training, especially when it's in speaker mode, I don't like to look at myself. I don't know if that's among the audience as well, but if it is, technically you can right-click over your face and hide that self-view. I feel like I have less hiccups when I do that. I feel like if I watch myself speak, for some reason it throws me off, so that's something that you can take advantage of. The next screenshot over, where it's myself and the gentleman and then the picture of me, this is the capability where you can technically hide those non-video participants, especially when you're in a Zoom room. You may want to just focus on those that are actually showing their video. So you can highlight that, and also on your meetings. The last option up top, lesser known, but you have that speaker view, that gallery view, and the top corner is technically the mini view. So maybe you're in a meeting, you need to access something really quick, and Zoom's taking up a little bit too much real estate on your computer. You can make it smaller, grab what you need to grab, and then make Zoom larger. Again, that's a little bit lesser known, but I've definitely used it a couple times.
One of the things, too, on this hide self-view and non-video participants, you always also have the option to do things like spotlight and pin. So pinning, it's your local view. You're able to pin a video. So in this case, let's say I wanted to pin Scott, who is Emily's boss. I can pin his video on my computer, and regardless of whoever talks, he's the one that actually appears on my computer. If you're the host, you can also spotlight your video. And the difference between spotlight and pin, spotlight forces that video participant for everybody. So regardless of whoever talks, that person is always going to be on the screen. So those are little things. It's a feature that has been with Zoom for a while, but one thing that we use definitely at Zoom all the time.
Thanks, Kevin. All right.
Can you set your default to always show non-video participants?
So for non-video participants, it has to be toggled when you're actually in the meeting, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. So it's an option that we can't yet actually set as a default.
And then as far as sharing, I'm pretty sure everybody's pretty aware of how to share your screen. However, most probably don't click that little up arrow next to the green share button. And this brings up advanced sharing options. If you click that little area, it's technically a little drop-down box. Once you hit advanced sharing options, it's probably not going to be this big, but it will be something showing up on your computer. Really, this is used for mostly webinar IC, but again, you can use it for meetings as well. The first option there is how many people can share at a time. Typically on a Zoom meeting, you have just one person sharing, but you do have the capability to have two share simultaneously. So perhaps maybe you're an architect, you're sharing some blueprints on one screen, and maybe an actual picture of the house on the other. This is a great way to kind of highlight that in one share. Now, we do recommend to have two monitors for that, but if you're curious on the other side, if you only have one single monitor, what will happen is you can flip between the two. So you can go from looking at the blueprints to looking at the picture of the house. Who can share here? You can control who is able to share, so it can be either just the host, especially if you're coming off of another platform, you're able to maintain that same control where it's just you that has that capability. And then you can also change it to all participants. So everyone is able to share at once, a little bit more Wild Wild West, if you want to kind of go that route. The way the settings are here, these are the settings that I have for my meetings. And so I typically have only the host can interrupt when others are sharing. So I kind of have the ultimate power there. However, you can also give that to other participants. So if you have more of an engaging conversation that you need to have, maybe everyone's sharing in a learning and development class, that's typically the use case there. All right. I am going to go over just a little bit of...
Sorry, I think we have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yes. Exactly. So just to repeat the question for everyone, can you change that? So let's say I started sharing one way and then I changed it to another. You can change that mid-meeting. So it's not a one and done type of setting. When it comes to actually sharing the content, so the center area there, I think everyone's clicked that button once. But the thing that you might not have hit is the advanced functions. This is where you can share perhaps just a portion of the screen. You can also share computer sound only. I tend to use that during my user training, so I'll play some, music, get everybody loose, happy. And then content from a second camera. Typically see that used in all hands. Maybe you want to see the audience, those that are asking questions.
And that advanced sharing option is also really useful too when you want to actually have, let's say, a secondary camera show a product, let's say. So I have a couple of customers who have, let's say, a 3D model of a product, and instead of just showing like a PDF version of it, what they do is they have a secondary camera, pointed to that car model, let's say. They can do content from the second camera, and you're going to get a 1080p version of that car live. So you don't have to just share static images or YouTube videos. You can actually go ahead and share a document camera. You can share a secondary camera that's somewhere else. We've had this done with drones before as well. So if there are some photography customers that actually have a drone hooked up USB to your computer. They fly the drone and actually share the second content from that monitor. They actually have a live drone footage directly inside the Zoom meeting. So there are different use cases for that. You can get as creative as you'd like, but it's definitely something that we, at Zoom anyway, we use it a lot more than I think some of our end users know about.
And if you do share your PowerPoint, and let's say you want to play music over it, you do have that option. Just don't ever forget it towards the bottom to share computer sound. And it's that big old box there, definitely the key if you do share anything and you want to play that sound with it. Something that recently came out is the capability to share files. So with Zoom, I think as most of you know, as long as it's open on your computer, you can share it. But let's say in this case, you want to use something like OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. You do have those options. Typically, I see it used in a webinar. However, again, this is something that's available for both. Breakout rooms, I am going to give just a little bit of a description behind it. This is something that's a little bit more advanced in what is available to you. So breakout rooms, let's say this was an actual Zoom meeting. I would be able to break us up into separate meetings within one. So half of you can be talking about constellations and the other talking about planets. And I, as the host, I can hop in between those rooms, talk to you, and then bring everyone back in the center. Now, typically, that's done on the fly. You can just designate everyone out. It is still done that way. However, if you're going to have something more internal, so more aimed towards education or perhaps training, you can create these breakout rooms in advance. So just keep in mind, they do have to be all members of your organization, but you can add them in. So when you're creating your Zoom meeting through the web portal, you'll have a checkbox to check breakout rooms. Once you check that box, you'll see what's seeing on Kevin's screen right now, the capability to go ahead and start adding people into those breakout rooms. And again, keep in mind those are people, those are real Zoom people that he's adding in, not from outside. And respectful to your companies as well. Absolutely.
So we use that a lot at our university, and it's fabulous that you just added that, because that's a question that we get a lot. If you do it as a recurring meeting, will it remember those
The people that you have in the
people
rooms.
each breakout room? For the recurring meetings, that's, for classes that repeat every week, the instructors want to be able to keep the same breakout rooms.
I think as long as they're registered.
Yeah, so if you have recurring settings, the recurring settings should continue on with every single meeting.
Yeah.
So here when I was creating it, once I designate these breakout room assignments, every meeting that somebody clicks into there will be preset for those. Yep.
The breakout rooms, do you treat a Zoom room as a participant in a breakout, or is it just individual people?
Zoom room can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The only people that are exempt for the time being, this will change in the near future, but for the time being, phone-in participants, so if you only call into the meeting, or web client-only participants. So those are the users that aren't using the Zoom application, they're just joining via their browser. They can't be separated into breakout rooms just yet, but that's definitely something that's coming down the line.
Sorry, I just have
You're good.
on that. We have actually put phone people into the rooms all the time, and I think that's the other way we have the Zoom inside the breakout room.
So you haven't been able to put Zoom rooms in?
No, I don't know if it's a new thing you've done it before. I know we haven't had fun with
So we'll double check that for you. So you should be able to put Zoom rooms because they're treated as a user, but we can try to follow up with you. Yep, no worries.
Yeah. Perfect. And then the last option here, when you're creating those breakout rooms, if you're going to just pre-create them, keep in mind you can download it via CSV. So in that case, you have that class that's rather large. You don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. You can technically download a template and then upload that so that breakout room is nice and created. So it makes things pretty simple. A webinar, again, something that's pretty well used throughout, but I do have just a couple of things just to add value in here that I do see. I do a lot of trainings for webinar, and not necessarily always used, but wanted to throw it out there. So the perfect thing is webinar chat. Now, it's not necessarily something new, but how I recommend my customers to use it is a little bit different in use case. So I typically recommend use webinar chat as the option to have a kind of a secret chat group among your speakers. So you can say, you're coming up on time, and your attendees cannot see that. If you select the option here to allow attendees to chat with no one, that just keeps it among yourself, the speakers that are able to see that. Just make sure to keep in mind the requirements that you're on the most recent version of webinar. Something that is another pretty new thing that was released back in August is the capability to unmute in webinar a phone participant. Previously, you were only able to unmute someone that joined via computer audio only. Now this is a capability with those phone participants. So as long as you know which phone number in theory to unmute, you are able to allow that person to talk. Desktop client, I think this is honestly the area that I ended up learning quite a bit. To be quite candid with you, I realized, oh, I didn't know we did that in here. And this is notify when available. This has become one of my favorite features. So let's say Matt, in this case, he's hard to reach and I really need to have a meeting with him. If I click that little down arrow, there is that capability to notify me when he is available. So if he's a really busy guy, I can know when he's out of his next Zoom meeting and just jump in and say, hey, we gotta meet now. So not that I'm gonna stalk Matt or anything, but this is kind of your button.
And you can do this to multiple people as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just limited to one. If I'm managing a team, I can have my entire team on notify me available, so I can always check up on them if I need to. But you can have multiple people in that group.
Note taker area. I'm sure most of you will notice earlier I had a screenshot of webinar chat. You'll notice it's actually there. So note taker area, I tend to use that as a capability to grab a screenshot. I don't really use Snagit too much because this is something that's already open on my computer, so I take advantage of it. I also use this to take notes as well. So maybe if I'm in a meeting, someone starts talking, maybe I have some action items I need to take. This is a great area just to make sure that you keep on top of things, and only you can see it. So even if you have misspellings, things like that, nobody will see it. Zoom, we are a very chat first and email later type of company. So chat is very well used here. So if you're searching for content, it might be sometimes hard to find. So this is almost like a virtual FAQ. You can search for something. So earlier I was talking about that virtual background. I can come through, search for that. I'll be able to see messages. I can search for specific people. I can also search for files or contacts if it's particularly a name. So just keep that in mind.
And we use this here a lot as Zoom for questions that continually get answered or continually get asked, right? So our sales team, engineering team, most of the time, a lot of people they're busy, and so they want to search for the same question somebody may have asked maybe 10 minutes ago. So they can actually go in there, and I can search here for, I could search questions for a Zoom room, let's say. If I actually type it in, it'll actually give me a timestamp here. So there is a timestamp when it was, so you know that the question that you asked or the material that you're searching for isn't old. So this gives you access to any public channel that is on your Zoom environment. You'll be able to search everything, and here at this, from my sales engineering team side, we ask a lot of the same questions here and there. So it's a great resource so that you're not wasting time having to find somebody to reach out to, emailing, things like that.
Always sounding smart, right? Goals. Elevate to meeting. So most of you probably already know, but we released Zoom Phone. This happened back in January, but we have some new capabilities here. So when you are on a phone call, you can technically elevate that out to a Zoom meeting. So in this example, I called out a number. At the bottom here, I do have this option to meet with that person. Once I hit that button, I will get a notification that that person is calling me into a meeting, and I'm directly in that Zoom meeting. So that really helps. You can go from having just a one-on-one phone call to maybe perhaps making this into a conference. And then, of course, you can start sharing that content. So you get a lot of added value there when you are elevating to a meeting.
Yes?
Do you have to have special equipment for that? Like a special phone? I know it's with your phone, but do you have to have a special phone? Or I saw in the demo earlier where she transferred it to her cell phone and then went into the nearest room and then came up on the screen. But I'm just wondering, do you have to have special equipment for that? Like if you're on a, never mind.
No, it's a really great question. No, I think, and just for the room to understand the question, she was asking, do you need special equipment or a special version of Zoom? Definitely, I would say for this to be able to be a capability, it is something that's fairly new. So make sure you're on the most latest version of Zoom. But as far as equipment, things like that, as long as it's a nice headset and you're able to have that microphone and speaker access, it's going to be capable.
Well, does the handoff work from, in the demo, they were using a physical phone, a desk phone. Will the handoff work from the Zoom app to a mobile phone or your mobile Zoom app?
So the handoff will work from a regular cell phone to your Zoom desktop application. The phone that they were using, I believe, at the demo was a hard phone that was paired to Zoom Phone, right? If you don't have a hard phone, your desktop application acts as your soft phone. So you're able to actually call. If I called my application here, I can elevate this to a meeting. Strictly from my desktop. I don't need an additional phone or anything with that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if you were on just and I guess I'm kind of moving away from the topic, but if you were on a Zoom phone only call on your desktop, can you hand it off to your cell phone?
Oh, I see. I don't think that handshake works yet. Let me verify that for you. I know this is recorded, so I'm gonna get in trouble, but let me verify with that for you, and I'll get back to you.
Perfect. Well, I mean, this does kind of bring us to more questions.
We have one right over there, I think.
Yeah.
I saw. Yep.
One comment. I think I was mentioned this earlier, and they said exactly what the person was saying, that they're eventually going to do the whole into a phone itself, your phone, your Zoom room,
Yeah. So the idea for our roadmap is to be able to do that. I just don't think right now it's ready. Yeah. Yes, sir.
In the chat feature in the app for a group channel, is there any way that you can give different rights to the owner of that group to maybe make it view only or more features?
Yeah, so we are expanding our chat functionality. Right now, the granularity of trying to manage a specific channel isn't necessarily there yet, but we are trying to add things such as having multiple admins in the chat, being able to restrict invitations to that chat. We're trying to add those features because I know they exist in things like Slack teams, things like that too. So we're trying to add them, but they're just not there currently.
Real quickly, there's
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind going up to the microphone actually, so
Oh,
that
there we go.
everybody can
Yeah,
hear?
everyone
I'm
can-
sorry.
we don't have
They're
to-
asking us so that everybody can hear. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So there's you're only allowed to open one version of Zoom. I have multiple machines and Windows and Mac, and I jump between them. And each time I open Zoom on a Mac, it closes the window. The only time I'm able to have two is if I have a mobile phone, which I have some PC, some Androids and some iPhones. Is there, on the roadmap, the capabilities of opening two sessions? Or is it going to always just be one session and it will shut down the other session when I open it up on another machine?
So host meetings simultaneously?
Not two
essentially, or
meetings, I want to
just two?
I want to open Zoom on two different machines, and I want to be able to have it so that if I'm on one, you can see it on the other.
Right.
We do a lot of the chatting features and a lot of the presence indicators. And if I go into a conference room and I start up Zoom there, it shuts it off on my machine at my desk. And I just wondered if there's a way to keep them both open.
Yeah, so multiple device login is a feature that I think it actually should be released now. So
Yeah.
if it's enabled on your account, it allows you to actually have multiple computers logged in at the same time. So it's not just device, like mobile device. It used to just be tablet, mobile, and desktop. But you're actually able to actually log into multiple desktops now too.
And that was released in the last, I want to say, between 2 and 3 months.
Yeah.
So I would say update your Zoom desktop application on all. And then if it's still not working, our support team can just make sure to take a look at your version, but for sure.
Is it an admin setting?
So it's an OP settings.
Yep.
So you'd have to put in a ticket to make sure that it's actually enabled on your account. Yep.
So that actually reminded me of a problem that I have as an administrator. We use a lot of Zoom meetings for like our recruiting, and so our HR administrator actually does try to have several simultaneous meetings, and our current workaround is to create many accounts with aliases so that she can get in and make simultaneous meetings. But is that on the roadmap to be able to kind of, for at least an administrator, person who has administrative rights, to create meetings that they can manage but not at the same time, but not necessarily be in every single one?
It is a capability, but you may want to reach out to your sales rep to just make sure that it's something that we can add to your account.
Okay.
It is a capability to have join multiple meetings simultaneously.
Yeah, so the option is called concurrent meetings.
Okay.
So you're able to have one user actually technically host 3 meetings at the same time.
That would be great.
Yeah. However, it is, like to Emily's point, it is something that you actually have to turn on account-wide.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is something, go ahead and reach out to your
So we
account
wouldn't
rep.
be able to restrict it to just like 3 or 4 accounts are able to have these concurrent meetings. Everyone would be able to? That'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. There are ways to kind of restrict it, but again, reach out to your sales rep. They'll be able to kind of walk you through that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Not yet.
Is that one word?
Nope. Nope, no worries.
We can repeat the question.
We'll repeat that, that's fine.
Do you guys have plans to launch integrations with Box or with Workplace?
So Box and Workplace integration. We have something, I believe, coming with Box. I'm not sure about Workplace.
I know there's an integration into Workplace where you can launch a Zoom meeting directly from there.
Mhm.
Our company primarily leverages Workplace for chat, and
Mhm.
because we want to keep all of our users on a single system
Right.
where they can find all of the information that's relevant, not just the single meeting that's going on. So it would be cool if there was a relationship there. And then in terms of Box, because that's what we use for our file storage rather than OneDrive or Dropbox.
So I'll take a note of that. If you want to give me your contact information afterwards, I can try to reach back out to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my
Yeah.
note place, yeah.
See, note taker area, super valuable, guys.
Yes, or, yeah.
Are all
sure.
the features that were covered here available for both the basic and the pro users?
Correct. The only thing not available to
I don't know about
basic users?
breakout room
You don't think so?
to create them. I'm not sure.
Okay, so the main restriction I would say with basic and pro is the time limit and some of those features like breakout rooms, but virtual backgrounds, things like that are all available to your basic users. You just have that time limit mainly. But
Yep.
yeah.
Just
Okay.
breakout rooms would be the only restriction.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to try this again. Oh, good. Do you guys have any good workarounds for, I guess we call it selective chat, right? Right now, you can only chat with one person or everyone, and often there's a lot of cases where you want to chat with 2 or 3 people within the meeting. I've asked a bunch of people upstairs, and they say it's not on the roadmap. Do you guys have a workaround or something for that?
Yeah, the only workaround, honestly, is to use persistent chat right now, which is the chat that you're seeing right here. Where
Doesn't that require the other person to have a Zoom account?
correct. So it's
You
the
do
only.
get that with free, though, so they can technically be a free user and get chat.
Oh, okay. They just have to be signed in.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah. So if you
Okay.
if I join a meeting here, there really isn't a way for me to actually. If there was 5 people in this meeting, there's no way for me to select it. I know exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
We've been asked that multiple times.
We
We're
just text each other, which is like not
Yeah.
useful.
So here, sorry about this. The option where it says to everyone, you're wanting to have it say, Emily and Kevin, you'd be able to select us and just talk with us,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Right now, it's not there, and I'm not sure whether or not it's actually on the roadmap. The closest thing that we can probably suggest is to actually use persistent chat if you want to add them to your contact list and actually create a group that way.
And they can be outside of Zoom and just have that basic account. They don't necessarily all have to be part of your org.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll try that.
Sure. No worries. Yeah.
Hi. I'm unclear on, it seems like there's some settings that are available without more money that you have to call the account executive to enable. And I'm unclear on why you can't just do that without having to call someone to enable those settings.
Which settings are you?
Well, I think didn't you just mention one? And another one was like the Zoom phone. Like I was talking with the Zoom phone people upstairs, and everyone, from my understanding, you can actually use Zoom phone for free internally, like with extensions.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to call my account executive to enable that, rather than just go to the settings and look through the settings and find it enable. And I believe that there was a couple other things in the past, and I thought you just mentioned one to do that. And I'm just curious on the thought process on that.
Well, I mean, a lot of those things sometimes can come at additional cost. So that's usually where we'll have you contact the account executive. I know Kevin and I would predominantly are not too much involved in the sales process, but I think that's.
Just in the use cases I'm thinking of, it was just like, oh yeah, we can enable that for you, and then they just enabled
Right.
it, and like, yeah. All right.
No,
Thanks.
I totally understand what you're saying, though. I feel you.
Hello.
Hello. We just started using Zoom for online teaching from August, and one of the features that we are missing is that the teacher cannot give the comment message to everybody before everybody is in the room. So they are used to write a comment message to all students, and students come afterwards and read the message. But now with Zoom you cannot do it, because if somebody comes after you write a message, that they won't see the chat
Correct.
history.
So you're talking about the persistent chat inside here, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody actually types something now and then somebody joins later, they're not going to be able to see the history.
I don't know about it being on the
Yeah,
roadmap.
I'll add that to my list here. Let me see. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add this to my list of things here to take away. Okay, cool.
Yes, I work with a lot of instructors that record on their own in Zoom and kind of have their speaker mode engaged as well. Now, in all of the help documents and stuff that I can find, and everyone that I've talked to, it's always on the top right. So it's just kind of a standard that way. Is that something that's an option that would be able to be changed, or is that something that was standardized for some reason that I'm not aware of? Also, in addition to that, would it be possible to make the speaker view in the recording transparent? Because that would help, at least, I know instructionally that would help a lot, and also to free up a little bit of real estate around a person.
So about the recording, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think it's stuck
hard-
to top right.
hard-coded.
I'm thinking it might just be the process you'll have for recording, right, and how it generates it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, are you doing webinars or meetings?
No, they're solo meetings that are recorded. That's
Okay.
it's kind of a weird way of doing it, but that's kind of how we did. And we've kind of just created a workflow where it's like, don't put anything on the top right that you don't want covered. So that's kind of how a workaround that we've done right now. But some instructors would like to be able to move themselves around the content.
So hiding your self view might be the only way that we could do that, I think.
See, that I would love to just do that, but a lot of instructors are like, I'm the expert in thermonuclear physics. I have to be seen.
Yeah.
But okay, that's if that's something that's available in the future, that'd be great. But if not, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Transparent self view.
Hi. So you were talking about having multiple monitors when multiple people are sharing content. And I wondered whether there's any thought to using things like Mac spaces so I could, rather than have multiple monitors, I can use my workspace itself and swipe between multiple screens.
So kind of like an extended desktop type of thing, right? Where
Yeah, sort of. It's like if you do a 3-finger swipe, you can get like multiple spaces on the desktop.
Yeah, right now we're for Zoom meetings and with Zoom rooms, we do need like a physical input to actually be able to do multiple monitors, things like that. Zoom wouldn't be able to distinguish between the multiple desktops inside the Mac space. Like I wouldn't be able to swipe here and have it go onto like a separate monitor. It actually needs that physical input to actually try to do an extended version. So I could take a look at it and see if there's something on the roadmap. Yeah, sure.
Proximity join for meetings coming to Android? Is that on program?
Yes. When you're walking into a Zoom room, right?
Yeah. How come you guys don't market that as much for iOS?
So our platform was originally developed under iOS. We just happened to start there, and the parity usually is pretty close. So typically, whenever we release a feature for iOS, it usually comes out at the same time with Android, or maybe like a week or two behind. But most of our development is honestly just based on iOS first, and then as things start to get rolled out, Android will come a little later. But I would say the parity isn't that far off, but yeah, some of the features are, once the new release hits, you might have to wait, a week or two for something to hit Android.
Is there a rule of thumb I had someone on a call once, and most of the people were not showing their video, and they said the sound will be better. So is there anything to that, certain number, the sound will be better if you don't have as many people pulling video? That's...
It sounds like they didn't want to turn on their video.
Technically speaking, I would say that video does draw more bandwidth, obviously, right? So if I turn on my video, I'm going to start drawing more bandwidth from whatever pipe that I have. So shutting off that video allows me to have more pipe for audio, things like that. That's me trying to extrapolate why people want to shut off the video. But through Zoom, I mean, you could have 10 people with video on, with audio on, versus 10 people with video off and still have audio, and it should sound exactly the same.
And then the last question is, what is the capacity for a webinar or a meeting? Are they the same, or what's the capacity?
So there's a default capacity for meetings, which is, I believe it's 100, 200?
It's 100.
Yeah.
Depending on the plan.
Right. So there's different plans actually per meeting. So you can actually buy a large meeting license, which is 500. I think it can go up to 1,000 now. Webinar can go up to almost 10,000 now. So depending on your license, you can actually have different number of participants. Yep.
All right. I think that's the. Oh, we'll take one more question. Yeah.
One last question. So I use the webinar platform, and when I put on the presentation for the slides, and we have a presenter, and if they want to advance their slides, I give them remote control access, but then that doesn't give me a chance to do any troubleshooting in the background because I'm having to toggle with the remote control. Is there a workaround or anything to kind of give us both? Well, we could do the screen share, just sometimes our presenters aren't always comfortable with their bandwidth on their end, and so they feel like if something goes down, they'd rather us be, held liable for that mishap. I don't blame them. But just, yeah.
Yeah, because I know your mouse has to be clicked in the area or in the active
Yeah.
Zoom meeting in order for that to work.
Right. With the more advanced, folks, I do have
Right.
them screen share and what have you, but yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool if it would just kind of, give access to both or something
Right.
somehow or another, but yeah.
Yeah, I think through screen share is the only way for us right now.
Mhm.
Let me take a note and try to see if I
Yeah,
can find
sure, no worries. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions, feel free to come up here. We'll be
Yeah,
happy
one-
to address them one-on-one.
I'll just take it.
It was more a comment about the person talking about the university, I think the university or some sort of education about the recording taking up space on the video taking up space in the top right corner of their recording. There's a setting that you can stick the video beside your content share. I just thought I'd say that. I'm sure you guys know much more about it, but we tick that on, and then basically the share is, it's you.
Real quick. Let me rebuttal real quick. My instructors hate that for some reason. They cannot stand the blackness on the side, like just the gap of nothingness. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
You can't win.
Thanks,
I
though.
tried to
Thank
sell
you.
that as well.
All good.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much. Thank you.